Welcome to the Goddess Conference Conversations. In this space, we will connect with interesting personalities, presenters and artists from our international community and chat about the upcoming conference's topics and themes.
Hello everybody, I'm Katinka, Soetens, one of the co-organizers of the Goddess Conference in Glastonbury, and I am so happy to have here with me today Enfys book to talk to us. I mean, they are just the most amazing person. It was so great having them with us 2 years ago, I think it was, with this amazing presentation on Queer Qabala. And really what I loved about that talk was just the mind expansion of looking at non-dualistic ways really of connecting in with our goddess spirituality, with our witchcraft backgrounds. And so I'm super happy that they're here to talk with us today about what they're going to be offering in the Goddess of Healing conference this year, coming in person. So welcome, Enfys. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, Katinka, it's my pleasure. It's so exciting, and I'm so thrilled to be able to come to the conference in person this year.
Me too. I can't wait to hug you and to have just, a cup of tea together or something, and be in the same space of the great temple we will be raising for the Goddess of Healing here in Glastonbury. So I was really wanting to let everybody know, A, that you're coming, and B, maybe you can talk a little bit into what the Goddess of Healing means for you, or what healing in general, how you see that really, or where your personal path of healing has brought you to, so that you can be this, weaver of the magic of the conference this year. Perhaps speaking a little bit about what you're going to be offering. Wherever you'd like to start, jump in.
Sure. Healing is such an interesting concept, especially when you add the magical layer to it. So, we're all raised to think healing, you go to the doctor, you get fixed, right? But that gets complicated when you add magic. It adds a whole different understanding and conception to it. But also, as someone who has suffered from chronic illness, it's not always as easy as just go to the doctor, get fixed. In fact, a lot of times it's not. It's
Definitely not.
go to this doctor, go to this doctor, go to this doctor, this doctor, this doctor
Endless.
disagrees with that doctor, So coming to part of the path of healing is coming to a place of acceptance of your own physical form and spiritual form, because healing is not just physical, of course. Coming to a place of acceptance of yourself, which is certainly a lifelong journey. And when we look at it magically, it's really a process of becoming whole again. We are born into this world, and as we go through the world, we have all these influences that slowly strip away things that are part of us that are deemed, unacceptable or doesn't fit with the group or whatnot. And so we get little chunks taken out of us as we grow older. And I think especially once you hit, your 30s, your Saturn return and everything, you start to look at those pieces that you've lost and think, wait, I want those back. And maybe all this stuff I've added on to sort of replace it to be more acceptable is not me. And coming to that place of integration, of wholeness, of balance, I think it's really a lifelong aspiration. It's not something I don't think anyone has actually achieved. But finding it's a process of becoming and unbecoming at the same time. And I wrote a poem about this once, about like, I'm becoming what I'm not, I'm unbecoming what I am, am I becoming unbecoming, and using the different wordplay there. So,
Fabulous.
so yeah, and I think part of the work with the goddess and how the goddess has been used within our various traditions is part of the backlash to, having so much mainstream religion is very patriarchal and male focused and male dominated. And for so many hundreds, thousands of years, and we lost the goddess along the way as a culture. And bringing that back in to our spirituality is so revolutionary, and I've seen it be super revolutionary for individuals who like were raised you know, Christian in particular, to have suddenly, wait, there's a goddess. There is someone I can connect with that vibes with my energy. This is incredible. Why did I not have this my whole life?
Mhm.
So, and for me, it's been a journey of finding first the goddess and then the divine, both and neither, you know, who is neither masculine nor feminine, but also is both. And feeling my own energy resonate with that, because the goddess was a piece of it, but it wasn't the whole picture, you know? It's having all three different facets of the divine for me has been really, um, really a big part of my healing journey. And so, what I'm going to be teaching at the conference is about queering your magical practice and finding those liminal places that many of us already work with and maybe don't even acknowledge as such, but those places of the divine, both and neither. You know, not saying that, you know, oh, we need to throw out the divine masculine and divine feminine. It's all part and parcel of the whole picture. But how can we expand our practice to be even more holistic and inclusive of all of the energies that are out there that we can work with? And how do we acknowledge the things that transcend gender in our practice? So it's going to be a very engaged group discussion more than a lecture. It's I love doing this workshop because people get really, really excited, and we get into small groups, and then we talk in a big group. And every single time I teach it, it's different because the different crowd brings different things to the table. So I am really excited to bring this to Glastonbury. I'm excited to visit Glastonbury. I have never been to the UK in my life. So there's so much. I'm actually going to be out in the UK and Ireland for 2 months exploring, and you know, because I have a lot of heritage there. And also I was an English major in college, so I have to go see things related to Shakespeare and whatnot. It's kind of part of my core values. There's things I have to go see from an ancestral perspective there. But yeah, I'm super excited. That was a long
No.
ramble.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. It's perfect. And thank you. And yeah, totally. You do have to. Absolutely. It's really an amazing thing to go and stand in the footsteps of these, great authors or the places of our ancestors, whether they are direct lineage or whether they are spiritual lineage, actually. It's very powerful and healing, actually, in a way. It does
Mhm.
something in the subtle, it's a bit of a homecoming in some way. It's a recognition place. And I
It really
so
is. Go ahead.
now go.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm half Norwegian, and I went to Norway for the first time in 2019, and being able to stand in the town where my grandfather came from was, yeah, there I can't quite describe, there's an ineffable quality to that I'm looking forward to experiencing throughout the UK, because I'm English, Irish, and Scottish, and
Wow.
have a Welsh name. So I feel like I owe a visit to all of those places.
For sure. And how marvelous. Yes, absolutely. I think what I really appreciate about you bringing is the liminal spaces between form that we can get very fixed on, very fixated on as well, which closes us down to the experience of what the other may be. And that's one of the things I really loved about your presentation in the conference a couple of years back, but also this what you're speaking into bringing. It sounds just so exciting and interesting. And really that other piece that you brought about wholeness, healing as wholeness, and how we can really own being whole, from the inside out, that integrated knowing, not intellectual, but in the body, in the heart, in the soul place of wholeness, no matter what our outer form or our sexuality or our physical ability is like. I think this is such a beautiful strand of healing that you're bringing into this mantle of our healing in the conference that we're working with. So yeah, thank you so much. How has that been for you when you found really this beautiful place that you spoke about of the mirror that becomes actually a triple or a multi-aspect um, form or formless of the divine? What happened there for you? How was that as an experience?
It was kind of a long journey that I can't really point to one moment of aha, but for me, I like many people on this path, I was raised Catholic, and there's certainly a lot of things that I love about that I incorporate into my spirituality. I love me some smells and bells, that incense, the music, like all the sensory experiences of magic really connect with me. But for me, I had a number of unexplained psychic experiences growing up, which I needed to give them a framework. I needed to understand them in some way, and the only framework that the Catholic Church offered was, "That's the devil. You should ignore it." And I couldn't. I simply couldn't. And I got to a point in my 20s where I'd been kind of ignoring. I dabbled in Wicca in college because I am in many ways a stereotype. My first girlfriend was Wiccan, and it was just sort of part of the journey, and it's a very common part of the journey for those of us who are bisexual or sapphic or both. Um, I dabbled in it, and there was something there, but it clicked, but then I sort of ran away from it.
Mm.
And so here I am in my late 20s, still having these psychic experiences, still having these unexplained things happen, and finally hitting a point of, I need to intentionally work with this, or I am going to lose my mind. There was a fork in the road. It's like, you can either keep pretending this doesn't exist and just go, like, get more and more cognitive dissonance that's going to be harder and harder to reconcile, or you can accept it. See, we talk about wholeness and healing. You can accept that this is part of you and part of how you are put together, and find a way to understand it. And for me, I took some wrong turns along the way. Many of us do.
Don't we all?
We end up with teachers who are bad news, who are trying to manipulate us and do bad things, but I'm extremely fortunate to have found the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel tradition based here in the Mid-Atlantic in the United States, which is a 40-year-old tradition that has 14 covens, and I'm now honored to be the high priestx of the coven based in Frederick, Maryland. And one of the things that I love about this tradition is its emphasis on both the divine masculine and divine feminine, and ensuring that both forces are represented within our covens, within our tradition, that we are honoring both. And for me, that was, you know, a bit of a revolutionary moment. Really seeing there's so much out there. And okay, there is actually one moment I can point to of finding sort of this liminal nature. So we have a degree system within our tradition. And as part of your second degree ritual, the culmination of that ritual is about uniting the forces of divine masculine and divine feminine within through the symbolic great rite, and, inserting the athame into the chalice. And I didn't realize it in that moment, but in the months that followed, I started to really explore and understand and accept my non-binary gender identity. I'm not going to say my second degree made me non-binary, but I'm not saying it
No,
didn't.
don't do that.
Like, I'm saying it revealed it to me. Let's put it that way. It didn't make me
Well,
that way, but it revealed it to me, and feeling the combination of the both and neither within myself in that ritual was incredibly powerful.
and as
And
any good initiation does, it's the beginning of then the exploration and the finding of what it actually is that we've initiated into. So I love that. I love that that
Mhm.
revealed itself like that for you.
Yeah. So it's always been a process of revealing and understanding and accepting, and in many ways, as I'm talking about this, I realize, yeah, it's been a lifelong healing journey of finding who I really am, and letting that blossom, and letting that be and being able to be myself. And I just wish that for everybody. And that's part of why I write, and that's why I teach these classes, is if I can even help one person along that path that I have taken, and by offering a hand, here you can follow me. We can go up this ladder together. I can show you, here's one way you could take that could help. Everyone's path is unique, so I can't tell them the way on their path, but I can at least point out some landmarks that might be helpful to them on their journey. And so it's definitely my blessing and my honor to be able to teach, to be able to write, to have people reading what I write and finding help and resonance therein.
Yeah, and that is so beautiful. I mean, that is healing, isn't it? If we can pass out that hand, hold out that hand, the helping hand, not because we have all the answers, but because these are these lights in the dark for people. And this is, I mean, if people are not familiar with Enfys's books, really check out their writing is fantastic, really clear, really wonderful. Oh, please, yes.
Yay!
I
I'll hold
love
them
it.
up here so people can see. These are the 2 books. There's one more coming out in January, which I can
Oh,
talk about in
goody.
a bit.
Bring
Yeah.
some along.
They
Yeah,
won't
so
exist
and
yet. I can't bring them yet because they don't exist yet, but I will bring the others for sure.
okay, great, great.
Mhm.
Yeah, so basically this the divine masculine, divine feminine in union, for me, it's very close to my own heart, of course. I know this is one of the foundation stones of most forms of Wicca. And then, but then you have really then blended that also in with Kabbalah. Would you like to say anything more about that particular
Oh,
stream?
for sure. And Kabbalah was a deep part of my study and still is, but it was definitely part of that journey toward finding my non-binary identity. And for me, it was definitely a light bulb moment as I was studying it for actually my second degree work. So the way our tradition works is you have to do a big project and then it culminates in your ritual that confers the degree. And the project has to be something that benefits the whole tradition.
Mm.
So you have to kind of open source whatever you do and make it available for everybody in the tradition. And I open sourced it further and made it available to everybody in the world who wants it, which I did a series of our 8 Sabbath rituals within my coven. I went through and walked us up the Tree of Life from Malkut to Keter.
Mm.
And because there's 8 holidays and 10 spheres, we had to double up on a couple of them. But it worked out because those 2 of the pairs, well, 3 of the pairs really work very closely together, and understanding one helps you understand the other. But one of the things that really struck me about, and just also to clarify, I work with Hermetic Qabala, which is inspired by and owes roots to the Jewish devotional practice of Kabbalah, but it is different. It is a separate approach to a similar spiritual tool.
Yeah.
And I get way more into that in the book if anyone wants a lot more thoughts on that. But what really struck me about it is that there were all these representations of 3 on the tree, and not just 2, not just masculine and feminine, not one or the other, but there's this third thing. So they have 3 pillars, for example, and they are in some texts called the masculine pillar, the feminine pillar, and the pillar of balance. And the pillar of balance in between the 2 isn't just a blending of the energies from either side, it transmutes them into something new and something different. So, for example, on one side, I talked about getting rid of the things you aren't and taking on the things that you are, taking those back. That's represented deeply on the Tree of Life. So we have Hesed, which is all about expansion and new ideas and leadership and just expansion. And then across from it is Gevura, which is all about sort of the divine editor, or the celestial surgeon is what Dion Fortune called it. And it's about removing the things that
Mm.
do not serve, that do not help the whole, do not take you to wholeness. And then between them and below them is Tiferet, which is the ultimate sphere of balance and bringing those 2 forces together. So it's a little bit like creating a chord on a piano. Sometimes by adding a note, you make the chord more resonant, and sometimes by removing a note, you make it better. So it's interplaying with both of those forces. And as I was studying it, I read Rachel Pollack's book, The Kabbalah Tree, which is fabulous, and I recommend it. And she just casually drops this line about, oh, incidentally, like all of the spheres have Hebrew names, and Hebrew names have masculine and feminine energies, and here's what they are. And I noticed that the two spheres at the top of the tree, Chokmah and Bina, are both feminine names, but are often portrayed as, well, this is the ultimate divine, masculine, cosmic phallus, forever, you know, spewing its seed everywhere. And this is the ultimate divine, dark, feminine, secretive, mysterious, but they're both feminine names. And that struck me so much in that moment of, hey, it's the lesbian power couple at the top of the tree, which is my little flippant way of referring to them. But I thought that is fascinating. They're not only both feminine names, but they're personified feminine figures in the Bible, depending on which translation you read, where they are co-creators of the planet alongside God.
Mm.
Uh, it is the powers of wisdom and understanding. And that really, really struck me. And I started pulling this thread and like, wait a minute. I've been sort of viewing this through a binary lens. There's so much more to be found here. And the more I pulled at the thread and looked at what was already there, the more I'm like, Kabbalah is inherently a queer magical tool. Like just by its, I don't have to add any rainbow glitter to it. I don't have to do the verb of queering the Kabbalah. It already is. And so that's the thesis of the book, is that this is already a very queer inclusive spiritual tool that is often taught, unfortunately, in a very patriarchal, homophobic way, but it doesn't have to be. And that's not what's baked into it. That's the perspective of the people who have taught it. So that's what led to writing Queer Qabala. And I've gotten tremendous feedback from a wide variety of folks on it, and I'm very pleased to have done so.
I am very pleased you've done that, because it is a really such a beautiful mirror, I think, for all of us, whether we're into the Kabbalah or not, or whatever. It doesn't actually really matter. Just as a tool to start thinking outside of our very binary conditioning, our very dualistic conditioning, even the qualities we're talking about, like you describing them on the Tree of Life. And they are thought of as masculine or feminine, and actually they're not. They're human as far as I'm concerned, really.
Mhm.
And so I love this concept of the third, which is not a merging of two apparent opposites, but which is actually something that transmutes, or that becomes the bigger or the greater, the more harmonious, the something else. And what an amazing healing thought process that is for all of us, no matter where we are in our own practices and path that we're walking, let alone from our personal lives, to actually just take that and think, okay, what is the actual attachment to this particular form, and what other angle could there be? And maybe there's actually there's more beauty, more healing, more wholeness, more other ways of looking at things. I think what you're doing is very important because of this. And yeah, I love that you're coming to the conference. It's really fabulous.
Oh, thank you. The book that's coming out in January, by the way, is called, I have to look to make sure I get the title correct because it's long. It's Queer Rites, Rites, a magical grimoire to honor your milestones with pride. And it is a
Oh, I
book of
love that.
rituals specifically for queer rites of passage. So I'm really looking forward. I've seen the cover of it. The pre-order is not up as of when we're recording this, but by the time we have the Goddess Conference, it will be available for pre-order, and it comes out January 8th from Llewellyn. So
Okay.
I'm very excited about that, and there will be a lot more information forthcoming in the coming months.
That's brilliant. I think we need more rituals for all sorts of rites of passages, for all kinds of occasions. And what an amazing resource you're providing there for all of us. Thank you so much for that. I look forward to that. Look forward to the birth of that book.
Me too. I'm still in the throes of editing, so
Oh, good
I will
luck.
look forward to it being in its final form.
For sure, for sure. Emma, thank you so much for being with me today and for talking to us all through this little chat that we're having here. It's
Thank you
been a
so
real
much.
pleasure. Really, really lovely. And really, really looking forward to seeing you in end of July, beginning of August in Glastonbury for the Goddess Conference.
I am so excited, and thank you again. It's such an honor to be able to present and to call myself an international speaker. This is very exciting for a new author to say. So,
Oh, for
thank
sure.
yeah. Well, thank you so I look forward to enjoying the beautiful area of Glastonbury and, getting to wander around the UK and Ireland is just going to be so exciting. But yeah, getting to see a spiritual conference on the other side of the pond is going to be a really cool experience. So I look forward to meeting everybody. I know I'm going to meet some new lifelong friends while I'm there.
I hope so too. And we will do things probably differently, and this is part of the healing weaving that we learn from each other and take away these gifts of inspiration. So yeah, really thank you for coming to join us, and thank you very much for today as well.
Thank you so much, Katinka. Really appreciate it.
This interview was conducted by Katinka Soetens. Join us this year for the 29th Glastonbury Goddess Conference, a joyful gathering of goddess-loving people, a 6 days in-person event in Glastonbury, Avalon, running from Tuesday 30th July to Sunday 4th August 2024, with the fringe events starting from Sunday 28th July. This year the theme is the Goddess of Healing. It's our maiden year, the first year of a new 5-year cycle. International presenters, transformative workshops and experiences, deep ceremonies on the sacred land of Avalon, community, art, fun, and love for Goddess. Let your healing journey begin this year. Join us for the Glastonbury Goddess Conference, Goddess of Healing. There are so many options to participate: full conference tickets, weekend tickets, day tickets. Find what suits you best and get your ticket now at goddessconference.com.